Behind every snack, smile, and seatbelt click is a secret the crew don't want you to know. There's a little mystery and a lot of logic behind every detail, from boarding to landing. Today, we're decoding the systems built into every plane, and once you notice them, you can't unsee them. Number 1. Oxygen masks don't last as long as you'd hope. In case of emergency, those yellow masks aren't built to keep you comfortable for the rest of the flight. They're designed to last 10 to 14 minutes max, and that's on purpose. If a plane suddenly loses cabin pressure at 35,000 feet, the air gets thin real fast. Passengers would black out in a matter of seconds without help. The masks drop automatically when there's a major change in cabin pressure, and they're powered by small chemical generators hidden in the compartment above your head. The oxygen supply is short, but it doesn't need to be long. The real system at work is the emergency descent. In case of a sudden drop in cabin pressure, pilots are trained to dive to around 10,000 feet, where the outside air is breathable again. This move typically takes less than 10 minutes. So the mask isn't a flaw in the system, it's a countdown clock. It's got just enough air to keep you conscious while the aircraft races for safer skies. But hold on, here's what they're not telling you. Not every part of a plane has to work before it leaves the ground. Number 2. Planes often fly with broken parts. Most passengers assume that every part of a plane has to be working perfectly before takeoff. But in reality, airlines run on a different logic. The Minimum Equipment List, or MEL. Think of it as a rule book signed off by regulators that spells out what's essential for safety and what can wait for repairs. If something small goes out, say a coffee maker in the galley, a reading light above your seat, or even some cockpit instruments if there are backups available, the flight can still leave on time. What can't be deferred are systems tied into navigation, communication, or passenger safety. The MEL keeps planes flying without having to cancel every flight over minor glitches. It's a calculated system that balances safety with practicality. Not every broken part is a danger sign. The MEL shows how aviation separates the critical from the cosmetic to keep schedules moving. That's one side of the system. The next one takes place in the cockpit, and it's even more unbelievable. Number 3. Pilots nap mid-flight. The idea of pilots sleeping while the plane is in the air sounds crazy, but it's actually part of the safety system. On long routes, regulations allow what's called controlled rest. One pilot monitors the instruments and radios, while the other takes a short nap, usually 20 to 40 minutes. On ultra-long-haul flights, airlines typically roster in a relief pilot so the crew can rotate. The system is built around fatigue management. Crossing time zones and flying through the night drains concentration. Studies show that tired pilots are a bigger safety risk than letting one take a quick nap while the other stays alert. Autopilot handles most of the workload, but the awake pilot always stays in control. A napping pilot isn't a failure of the system. It's the system working as designed to keep human performance sharp. So far, everything has made sense. Now it gets a little weird, starting with the one door you thought was private. Number 4. The lock on the bathroom door isn't what you think. Airplane bathrooms feel like the only private space on board, but that lock doesn't work the way most people think. Behind the lavatory sign on the door is a hidden latch that lets the crew unlock it from the outside in a matter of seconds. Why? Safety. If a passenger faints, falls, or locks themselves inside during turbulence, the crew needs to be able to reach them quickly. The same applies if someone tries to smoke in the bathroom or stay inside for a suspiciously long time. The lock is more about giving passengers the illusion of privacy than full-on security. That little sliding bolt isn't a guarantee of solitude. It's a quick release system designed to keep the bathroom safe for everyone on board. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, wait until you hear what might be in your coffee. Number 5. The drinking water might be contaminated. Ordering a cup of coffee or tea on a flight may seem harmless, but the water feeding those pots comes from onboard tanks that don't always get the same cleaning attention as the rest of the plane. Several Environmental Protection Agency audits have found bacteria, including E. coli, in aircraft water supplies. Airlines are required to disinfect tanks regularly, but the logistics of constant flying make deep cleaning inconsistent. To regulators, the water is still drinkable by minimum standards, but some flight attendants even admit they avoid drinking it. That in-flight tea isn't necessarily unsafe, but the system prioritizes turnaround efficiency over sparkling clean tanks. Bottled water remains the more predictable option. Your hot drink might not matter much. A pilot's dinner? That's handled with strict backup rules. Number 6. Why pilots never eat the same meal. In the cockpit, dinner isn't just food, it's strategy. Airlines usually require that the pilot and the co-pilot eat different meals. If the pilot's chicken is bad, the co-pilot's pasta means there's at least one healthy alert person who knows how to fly the plane. It's the same logic as having multiple radios or backup hydraulics. This isn't just a nightmare scenario. It actually happened before. In 1982, a flight from Lisbon to Boston turned into a disaster when 8 out of 10 crew members ate what is believed to have been tainted tapioca pudding, resulting in sudden stomach cramps and sickness. Thankfully, the co-pilot hadn't had any dessert and was unaffected. Some airlines even stagger meal times so both pilots aren't digesting food at the same time. It's not a law, but it's written into many carriers' operating procedures as a simple way to cut down on risk. But it gets even more unbelievable when you find out which surface is dirtier than the toilet.
Ew.
Number 7. Tray tables are dirtier than toilets. It looks clean enough to eat off, until you realize it's actually one of the dirtiest spots on the plane. Travel Math, a website that uses important data to help you plan trips, sent a microbiologist to collect 26 samples from 5 airports and 4 flights. The results are probably not what you'd hope for. The study showed that airplane tray tables are almost 10 times as dirty as the flush button in the bathroom. Why? Turnaround times between flights are short, and cleaning crews focus on trash and bathrooms. Tray tables rarely get more than a quick wipe. The problem is that passengers use tray tables for everything: balancing laptops, eating meals, reading books, and sometimes even changing dirty diapers. Mix all this together, and it's easy to see how the tray table can quietly become the germ capital of the cabin. The bathroom isn't the biggest hygiene risk on board. It's the fold-down surface where you're just about to put your sandwich. And now it's time to look at the air you'll be breathing at 30,000 feet. Number 8. You're breathing recycled air. The air inside the plane doesn't come straight from the sky. It's a 50-50 mix of outside air and recycled cabin air. The recycled part runs through HEPA filters, the same ones used in hospitals. They scrub out 99.97% of particles as small as 0.3 microns. As well as this, cabins refresh the air 20 to 30 times an hour. That's far more often than in most offices and schools. But the system isn't perfect. Ventilation is strongest when the engines are running. During boarding, while taxiing, or when stuck on the tarmac if the plane has missed its slot, airflow can be reduced and it can make you feel uncomfortable. Airplanes aren't sealed boxes of stale breath. They're moving air machines. The cabin is probably cleaner than your office, just maybe not while you're boarding. But this is where things take a shocking turn, because outside the cabin, planes face something seriously dramatic. Number 9. Planes get hit by lightning more than you think. Lightning strikes on a plane sound terrifying, but they're actually routine. In fact, Airbus estimates that every commercial jet is struck about once a year. Modern aircraft are built like giant Faraday cages. The outer skin, which is made of aluminum or carbon composites lined with metal mesh, channels the electrical charge around the cabin and safely out through another point, usually the tail. Inside, passengers rarely notice more than a quick flash or muffled boom. The last time a lightning strike caused a U.S. airline crash was in 1967, before today's safety standards were in place. Since then, manufacturers like Airbus and Boeing have tested their jets with simulated strikes up to 200,000 amps. That's stronger than most natural lightning bolts. A lightning strike isn't an accident waiting to happen. It's a test the aircraft is built to pass year after year, with passengers barely aware it ever happened. Lightning is unpredictable, but survival rates? Those follow a pattern, and it has everything to do with where you sit. Number 10. Some seats are more dangerous than others. Everyone has a seat preference. At the front for a quick exit, in the aisle for a leg stretch, next to the window for a view. But when it comes to survival, not all seats are equal. According to Popular Mechanics, the safest seats are those toward the back of the plane. Sit here and you'll have a 69% chance of survival in case of an accident. The second safest part of the plane is in the middle, over the wing, where you'll have a 56% chance of survival. The most dangerous seats? They're the ones at the front where you'll have a 49% chance of survival if the plane goes down. The logic is structural. In many crashes, the nose and forward fuselage absorb the greatest impact, while the tail section stays more intact. Rear positions also tend to be closer to the overwing or aft exits, where rescue teams may access first. But seat safety isn't only about crashes. Aisle seats expose passengers to bumps from carts, passing travelers, and greater turbulence jostle. At the other end of the scale, window seats limit contact with others, which lowers the risk of catching respiratory infections during the flight. Now it's on to a tiny ritual that happens before takeoff. It doesn't seem like a big deal, but it's one of the most important safety rules on board. Number 11. Why window shades have to be open for takeoff and landing. That polite request to raise your window shade when the plane is taking off and landing, it's not so you can get a good view. It's about safety and speed. Takeoff and landing are the riskiest phases of the flight, and keeping the shades open will let crew and passengers see if there's smoke, fire, or debris outside that shouldn't be. It also lets responders know immediately which exits are safe to go through. There's also a biological angle. Exposing passengers' eyes to outside light helps them adjust more quickly in an evacuation. It's the same reason cabin lights are dimmed at night. It primes everyone's vision so no one is stepping into pitch blackness unprepared. Other transport systems don't need this. Your bus driver isn't planning for an emergency sprint. Airlines do, so every second matters. The window shades prepare your eyes. The next system prepares your phone, and the logic behind it isn't what you'd think. Number 12. The real deal with airplane mode. Every flight starts with the same request. Please switch your phone into airplane mode. Passengers often assume it's about safety, as if one phone signal could bring down an aircraft. The truth is less dramatic and more technical. A single phone won't disrupt the avionics, but hundreds of phones, all trying to connect to cell towers at once, can create interference. That interference usually shows up as statuses on the pilot's radio or disruptions in ground communication. At best, it's annoying. At worst, it could garble an important transmission during takeoff or landing. Airplane mode also stops devices from constantly hunting for a signal, which reduces network strain on the ground. Other transport systems don't have the same rules because they don't rely on such sensitive radio frequencies. Some cabin crew claim that air rage is another major reason people can't use their phones on flights. Imagine being in an airplane with over 200 people all talking on their phones at once. This would be hugely disruptive and stop the cabin crew from doing their job, as well as annoying everyone on the plane. You'll want to pay close attention to this part, because the next system involves you, and it begins the moment you step on board. Number 13. The crew members are watching you. The warm greeting you get from flight attendants when you board? It's not just friendly hospitality. It's also an informal screening. Crew members are trained to quickly scan each passenger for signs of intoxication, aggressive behavior, illness, or suspicious activity. They're also taking note of people who look physically capable in case extra help is needed during an evacuation or another emergency. This scan is over and done in seconds. A smile at the door is paired with a mental checklist. Who has mobility issues? Who's traveling with children? Who looks anxious? And who might pose a risk to safety? It's a risk assessment, not a judgment. It's the same principle as situational awareness in security roles. Identify potential challenges early, so if something happens mid-air, the crew doesn't have to start from zero. That cheerful welcome aboard is also data collection. The friendliest smile on the plane doubles as the sharpest line of defense, which brings us to the thing airlines rarely say out loud. Overbooked flights aren't mistakes. Number 14. Flights are overbooked on purpose. When a gate agent announces an overbooked flight, it's not a scheduling mistake. It's a calculated strategy. Airlines know that on most routes, a number of passengers won't show up due to missed connections, last-minute cancellations, or because they simply never showed. To offset those empty seats, carriers deliberately sell more tickets than the plane has seats. The system is built on probability. Data models use years of route history to predict how many no-shows are likely. When too many passengers actually arrive, airlines switch to compensation mode and offer vouchers, hotel stays, alternative flights, and sometimes cash until enough volunteers step aside. It's not just airlines that do this. Hotels also do it with rooms, and car rental companies do it with vehicles. The scale just feels bigger on an aircraft because of the high stakes. An overbooked flight isn't an accident. It's math in action, balancing empty seats against full cabins to maximize efficiency and revenue. But what happens next will change everything, because there's one scenario airlines quietly prepare for but hope you never see. Number 15. There are protocols for deaths mid-flight. It's rare, but people do die during flights, usually from sudden medical issues like heart attacks. Airlines have procedures to manage this that are respectful but also practical. If there's zero chance of revival, the body is usually covered with a blanket and placed in a part of the plane that's separate from the passengers. If there's not enough room, the body will be placed in any available seat, which could be next to another passenger. The system focuses on dignity and discretion. The crew try to minimize distress to nearby passengers while keeping the deceased safely secured. Pilots then inform the ground staff, so there are medical professionals and authorities ready as soon as the plane lands. The International Air Transport Association claims that in-flight medical emergencies happen about once every 880,000 flights in 2024, and deaths made up a tiny fraction of those. Flying once felt simple. Ticket, seat, sky. But now you've peeked behind the curtain. You know that masks only last minutes. Tray tables are dirtier than toilets, and crew greetings double as profiling assessments. Every flight runs on hidden rules passengers rarely see. A coded world where safety, business, and design all work quietly in the background. Now you're in on it. Flying isn't what you think. It never was. You just decoded it. This is transit code.